past and present meet each other, lying so low that at times it just manages to stay above water. And yet it was that very water that helped to bring prosperity to Zeeland, and indeed all of the Netherlands. Industries, for instance, benefit from being close to sea arms and rivers. Everywhere, man has surrounded himself with dikes, large and small, to protect the land wrested from the water. In the Netherlands, things are different. Ships sail past high above the land. Roads tunnel their way underwater. Luctor et emergo. I struggle and rise up. Words inscribed on the crest of Zeeland province that truly apply to this region washed by the sea and the sea arms. The balance between land and water has always been a shaky one, and even though hydraulic engineers, through the centuries, broadened their technical know-how, the danger of floods was always lurking round the corner. In 1953, battered by a sea that in its fury rose to unprecedented heights, dikes collapsed in many places. A catastrophe hitherto unknown to the Dutch. More than 1,800 people were drowned. That's when it was decided to protect the coast, and especially the vulnerable estuary of three main European rivers, once and for all, against future calamities, by means of a number of barriers. The scheme, known as the Delta Project, shortens the coastline by more than 700 kilometers. The final stage of the project was carried out in the mouth of the Eastern Scheldt. The area of the tidal basin was reduced by building 2 islands on existing sandbanks. Closure of the 3 remaining tidal channels would adversely affect the unique saltwater tidal environment. In the age-long struggle against the sea waged by the Dutch, safety always came first. It has come to be realized, just in time, that the ecological environment in the Eastern Scheldt is very valuable as well. At an early stage, biologists began taking stock of the vegetation and bird population. Flying in a fixed pattern have taken samples from the seawater. They were needed to test the quality of the water and the effect of tidal movements on the presence of nutrients, for instance, shellfish in the Eastern Scheldt. The samples were taken to the laboratory to be analyzed in the freshest possible conditions. Preserving the unique environment in the Eastern Scheldt as much as possible and ensuring the safety of the hinterland and its inhabitants, those were the 2 considerations that determined the decision to opt for a storm surge barrier with gates that are to be closed only under extremely severe weather conditions. Construction of the storm surge barrier begins by dredging a trench in the seabed. Mats are let down on both sides of the trench to stop the sand at the bottom from moving. A specially designed compacting rig consolidates the loose sand in the bottom of the trench by vibration. Foundation mattresses filled with sand and gravel cover the compacted trench bottom. On this solid foundation, the storm surge barrier can now be built. Before the piers, built elsewhere, are installed, an anchorage craft is maneuvered exactly in position. A lifting vessel transporting a pier is moored to the anchorage craft. At the turning of the tide, the pier is lowered by the lifting vessel. The broad base base of the pier is embedded in several layers of rocks. Bridge sections are then placed on the piers. A superstructure adds height to the piers. Sliding steel gates are mounted between them. Gigantic concrete sill beams between the piers determine the size of the gate openings. The rock sill is brought to the correct height. The heavy steel gates are lowered only when a storm surge threatens, so that the land behind is protected against flooding. In various laboratories, tests have been carried out, for instance, to determine the effects of a storm surge barrier on the tidal movements as far as the back reaches of the eastern scheldt. Never before has a hydraulic project of this magnitude been carried out. All craft needed for construction were tested with the aid of scale models. The tests, to some extent, determine the design of a fleet of futuristic craft. A temporary bridge, 3 kilometers long, gives access to the construction dock in the mouth of the eastern scheldt, where the piers are built. The construction dock really is a sort of boulder, surrounded by dikes 15 meters below sea level. This maze of steel bars is in fact the reinforcing of the pier base, 50 meters long, 25 meters wide. The concrete base has to be cast in one continuous operation. That's why concrete pouring goes on for 36 hours without interruption. The concrete pier base is strengthened with pre-stressed cables of high-quality steel. The cables are laid in tubes in the whole construction from front to back and from left to right. A heavy jack stretches the cables, then they are secured. The newly built compacting rig has meanwhile started work. Its 4 giant vibrating needles are driven some 15 meters into the sloppy sand bed to improve its bearing capacity. Compacting takes place in all 3 tidal channels in the path of the storm surge barrier. Strong currents make it necessary for the sandy seabed to be protected against erosion by bottom mattresses. They will also serve as foundation for the piers in the storm surge barrier. Floating cylinders are used to transport and unwind the foundation mattresses. 2 of these massive rollers are built on land. A plant was set up temporarily to manufacture the foundation mattresses. They are made up of several layers of synthetic cloth with sand and pebbles in between. Wire mesh separates the sand and pebbles in compartments to keep the material in place. The top of the mattress is also covered with heavy synthetic cloth. The mattress is strengthened with spikes to form a kind of endless buttoned mattress, flexible enough to be wound on rolls. The drum, with 8,000 square meters of mattress wound onto it, on its way to the craft, that is to lower the foundation mattresses to the seabed. The drum is maneuvered into the arms of the pontoon with the help of the tidal current. Then, the mattress is carefully unwound by the pontoon moving backwards. Computers and advanced location devices ensure that one after the other, the mattresses are laid on the seabed, exactly in position. So as to ensure that nothing went wrong with the unwinding operation, inspections are carried out with an underwater vehicle equipped with 5 television cameras. The pictures taken by the cameras are relayed to the control room. Any damage can be spotted and later repaired by divers. Every 8 days, work is started on a new pier. All reinforcing segments arrive ready-made. They are manufactured in series and need only be fitted in the correct position. At another pier, concrete pouring is in full swing. Concrete pouring goes on day and night without interruption. Any break in the work would be detrimental to the quality of the concrete. As the evening crew takes over, hundreds of daytime workers leave to go home. Construction of the first pier in its final stage. The piers vary in height from 30 to 40 meters, which makes them as tall as a 12 to 13-story apartment building. They are hollow and derive their strength from more than 900 stressing cables used in each pier. Later, when they have been floated away from here and lowered to their appointed positions on the seabed, they are filled with sand. A festive moment has come when the first construction yard is flooded. It takes about 3 weeks before the piers are completely in the water and